This is Tech Talk, the original series of conversations about change and innovation in technology impacting the global Southeast U.S. digital transformation.
Eric, welcome to Tech Talk.
Oh, thanks for having me, Frank. Great to be here.
You know, one of the things that we've learned that so much it makes for the dynamics of the kind of involvement we have with an interactive digital economy, and certainly we're heading towards even something as sophisticated as private economies, the nuances of the most important yet seemingly the simplest thing, like human interconnectivity and the human experience that everybody's talking about. So what I'd like to be able to do is take advantage of what you guys are already doing as far as immediate capabilities to enhance small business and that kind of interconnectivity, but also what's going to be as far as the future, what are we looking for and what to expect. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's go into a couple of things first. One of the things I guess a lot of our listeners are really curious about is, bottom line, how does the live answering help small business grow? I mean, does it really make a difference? I mean, so many of us are already dealing with that horrible music that plays that says, I know I'm waiting. I don't know if you've ever heard that country song, but if I hear it one more time. But in any case, what's your feelings on that?
Well, I mean, Frank, the way I look at it is there's two ways you can really grow your business, and everybody knows that. You can sell more. That seems to be the default point of view is, we'll sell more and we'll grow. But on the flip side of that, specifically, and not for all companies, when you have a recurring business model, of course, you want to close the back door and you want to keep more customers. So for me, it's kind of a two-pronged approach. I mean, on the sales front, adding more customers with live answering service, it boils down to answering 100% of the phone calls that you get. I think that a lot of things with the new technologies out there that are different channels for clients to reach businesses can almost be a distraction. And then you have robocalls as well. And I think that, honestly, the robocalls have almost tainted the view of the phone. We're almost afraid to answer it these days. But the reality is, and there's tons of studies out there, and I'm seeing anywhere between 60 and 70% of all business deals today, with all this technology and AI and texting and chatbots, are still done over the phone, believe it or not. And when I saw that stat, it's like, oh my God, that's amazing. But it's actually true, and it's in the statistics that we see too for all the calls that we answer for all these small businesses. At the end of the day, if you dissect those calls, more than 50% of them are new leads and new opportunities for the businesses. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please, you go ahead.
Yeah, so that's just fascinating to me, that how the phone, despite all the technology, is still reigns supreme as the preferred channel to do business and when doing a deal. And for me, I think it comes down to just that peace of mind, knowing that if I'm about to give my credit card to a business to set up new service, or I'm gonna put down a down payment for whatever it could be. It could be any business. It could be a lease. It could be a new product. It's just that final confirmation that I know what I'm getting. I'm not getting scammed. This is real, and a real person took my money, and I know what I'm getting, and now I have that human connection with that new business. And I think there's a lot of things that go into that, and it's a trust factor. I mean, we live in a world of fraud and all of these security, cybersecurity, and I think it's just a peace of mind thing. And no matter all the technologies out there, I think the phone is still 10 years from now, I think it's going to be a valuable resource for growing your business through the sales funnel.
Well, you can understand the challenge that most business owners today have. I mean, I often talk about the fact that there's so many of these innovations that are coming out, and I'll call them mega innovations. They're not really a single function, but rather an entire industry. Let's say something like fintech, but Internet of Things and AI, and the list. But and consider it more like an international airport with planes circulating, and each one of those planes is a new innovation waiting to land. And guess what? The actual people at the gate are the same people. They're that same small to medium-sized operation who's trying to engage and digest exactly what's happening. And really, I think most cases are faced with sort of an uncertain reality, so they're having to deal with the normal complexities of just competition, but then all of a sudden now we've got this new aspect of advanced technologies and advanced systems. Let's talk a little bit about the fact of I think you bring up a really strong point. I think things that we know, trust, and understand are certainly going to be more meaningful in the early stages of accepting a digital transformation. But isn't it a case where we're kind of getting used to it? I mean, we're getting to the point where maybe we resist it at first, but then over a period of time we know we're going to run into that bot or that situation. I mean, you mentioned the channels that don't even exist yet. What are some of the things that, even though I know that the ultimate right now is the telephone, when you guys are looking into the future, what are some of the kind of things that you're looking at? I mean, obviously, bots and texting, they didn't exist 20 years ago. What's going to happen in the next 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, there's no denying that's the path we're headed, and we all need to embrace that. Texting, which I think you just mentioned that for us, that's a preferred method of communication for maybe a younger generation that didn't grow up with the telephone and those that don't even know what a dial tone is. So texting is just how they do things, whether it's from their cell phone or even other applications. That's one popular one currently. Now, where is it going in the future? Artificial intelligence, I think a combination of AI and chatbots, they will continue to get smarter and smarter. That's the concept behind those, is that it will adapt to what your clients are asking for. So if you could have an application or a bot on your website, and it will just get smarter with time as it starts to get the right answers. It's just like the algorithm that Google operates on and other algorithms that other platforms are built on. It will continue to get smarter and smarter based on what your clients are asking for, and eventually that could be a form of automation of sales as well. But then you go back to the trust factor and the human voice. And so I think it's just a matter of, for me, I think it's finding that balance. Absolutely, there's no denying that that's where things are headed. And I think every business has to find the balance of what your clients want from a human connection, and then what form of automation can you implement to find that perfect balance.
You know, the challenge again, and I think one of the things that you're really providing such a great service for, Eric, is the fact of your objectivity in looking at the total arena rather than specifically as at the benefits that's offered by your company. I know you guys are doing some pretty innovative and efficient things, and that's certainly important as it exists today, no doubt about it. I think that one of the reasons I bring up the future is only to say that to me, in that trust factor and that relationship that you build is the best of your own projections of what the future is going to look like. Because I think most company owners automatically start with the premise of, now, wait a minute, you're talking about legacy systems. You're talking about having to change all my operation. You're talking about cloud. You're talking about, wait a minute, I've been doing business for 25 years. I'm making a profit. I've got a very nice, why do I have to change? Well, what's worse than even that is that the change is on every level, both breadth and depth. And some of them I probably are not even realizing that part of, in fact, I would submit the gate to the digital future is obviously that first contact that the consumer makes with the vendor. And ideally, right now, it is all about the phone. What I guess I'm looking at is, do you consider the segue aspect? Is there a consideration when you're talking to a small to medium-sized operation to solve his immediate problem, but is there any interest or need to even consider, say, bridging for something in the future to say, well, if you bought this piece of equipment now, it'll take care of your current situation for the next couple of years, but if you bought this one, you'll be able to connect and actually be part of the next level of, say, 5G or something. Is there anything like that you would do, or is that just in the normal course of an analysis of a client?
Yeah, I think it does. It's going to vary from client to client based on what their customers demand, and I think having the proper feedback channels available to your clients and understanding what they want, it just highlights the need of being in tune with what's going on with your customer base. which is kind of part two of my answer of how businesses grow is keeping your customers. Once you sell them, you can sell all day long, but if you can't keep them and keep them happy, then you're not going to grow. I mean, that's a key to scaling any business is growth and closing the back door and churn. That's a real thing. So being in tune with what your clients want and understanding that all comes from providing a good customer experience and providing the right support. And that support, again, kind of falls into what we're seeing is that support happens around the clock, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Whenever it's convenient for your customer, that's when they're going to reach out to you. And the business owner can't be there all the time. You just can't. It's impossible. You cannot answer every single phone call or every text or every chat. You have to hire additional staff. You have to hire additional staff to do those things for you. And so it's just, again,
the impact is absolutely powerful. But the efficiency aspect, obviously, when you really get down to the nitty-gritty, I can't imagine operating without something like what you guys are doing. It just would be impossible for a small business to keep up. I think the battle isn't a competitor. The battle is the speed of change and the speed of computers.
It's just time. It's really time. There's just not enough of it. I mean, if you literally set a goal at the beginning of a month and said, I'm going to answer 100% of every contact to my company immediately, and I'm not just talking about phone. It could be chat. It could be text. You're going to need a staff of 5 full-time people because you got to give them 2 days off. I mean, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. So a 24-hour shift, you're talking 3 8-hour shifts, but you got to have 5 people to cover those three shifts if you want to give them a day off, and I'm sure they would appreciate a day off too. And you're talking $8,000-$10,000 a month just staffing to support those incoming inquiries from your clients. And where with our services, I mean, it's literally a fraction of that. So there's huge value in outsourcing telephone communications and even chats, which is another product that we're offering. So it's not just voice. It's also recognizing, again, the different ways that your clients want to communicate with you. One company may be different, but voice, chat, text, bots, all of those still require somebody behind there. Somebody needs to be there to manage those elements.
It's probably maybe something that really doesn't come up because maybe it's not politically correct, I guess, or maybe digitally correct. I guess that most of the small owners that I know that do business using some form of call center or an assistance system like that usually have the problem that over, as I was mentioning earlier, a time period, people become more sophisticated and begin to realize, wait a minute, I'm not talking to IBM. I'm talking to a guy that maybe was hired by IBM 2 weeks ago and probably doesn't know anything more about the problem than I do. How does that work in terms of and the other part of it is, unfortunately, even language in some cases can be a criteria in terms of who am I speaking to, where are you at? Talk a little bit about what you do to enhance that, credibility and believability in terms of building the trust that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and it is important. The language thing is not necessarily an issue for us. We're solely based in the States here out of Atlanta. But one thing that we do from our own customer experience is when we sign up a new client, they're assigned a dedicated account manager, and so they spend the rest of their life having somebody, their life at VoiceNation, having a dedicated person who from day one starts talking about their company's needs, how they want us to handle their calls, and we have a software that is proprietary to our business that allows us to create very, very customized scripts and dialogue flow so that based on what the client's asking, we can kind of branch off in different trees and speak to a lot of the questions that a lot of other call centers couldn't provide their call center agents to have that information in front of them. And so it's something unique to us, the technology that we operate on.
Do you do it more or less like a situation analysis and look at the current messaging that they're using?
Yeah, that'd be one way to put it. Internally we call it like logic-based scripting.
Okay.
And an example would be call comes in, and the first question that our operator might ask is this, are you calling for new service or are you an existing client? And if it's an existing client, then it might branch off into another series of 4 or 5 pre-qualified questions.
Gotcha.
All right, you calling to pay your bill, calling to speak to someone specifically, and then from there it can really just branch out into all these different conversational flows that we would pre-program for that client. And so it really provides a better experience than you might get at maybe a third-party call center where they're just there and they can't give you any information. They don't know anything about the company. They can't answer any FAQs. I mean, we can take it as far as we can integrate with your CRM, or we can be your lead generation company and take leads and put them right into your CRM. We can process orders. We can do on-call, like dispatching for companies that have after-hours support and so forth. So it's really customizable, and that's really the key.
So it's a lot more than just contact. Obviously, it's almost personal care, I guess, personal experience, and making sure that
it's really like having your own personal assistant, but having a whole team of them. We have hundreds of call center agents that work for VoiceNation. But again, it's the intuitiveness of the software that allows the agents, no matter who's calling in, to have all of that information at hand. And that's really the critical piece, is to, again, making us see that and have that information to be able to speak to that caller.
Usually when you're getting involved in some of these decisions that I was talking about earlier with the small to medium size, looking at legacy technology and trying to figure out where to fit into what's coming next, it seems to me like the most efficient, most effective thing that you could do, even in terms of not only saving yourself some money, but saving yourself some time to handle all of those other things that you're always too busy to get to, would be to have the kind of service that you're talking about. I mean, specifically, what would you call it? What would I be looking for when I'd find you guys? I mean, obviously, I'm looking for call centers. Is that something that you would normally describe yourself? I mean, I think in reading some of the material, there was an interesting description in terms of I forget it now, but I can't remember, but it's something like human interaction, but it's high touch, that's what it was. It was consumer experience in the high touch call center industry. We talk often about touch points anymore. Where do you touch this particular situation from? Talk a little bit about that. I guess you covered it in terms of that one voice, one individual, and then being able to quickly respond to your needs. That's more or less that high touch, and it's certainly better than a bot would be, I'm going to assume. But maybe go into a little bit about that part about the high touch call center industry.
Yeah, so I think the word call center kind of maybe has gotten a bad rap over the years because it's associated more with outsourcing and these huge monster big call centers, and that's for me. That to me, I identify that with more of a physical location. Like when we're talking internally in our business, it's the call center. That's the physical call center over there with the phones and the cubes, and that's where the staff sits in the physical call center. Our business would be in the more of a category of a live answering service or an answering service, and that's where you would find us. From a industry speak and what category this type of service falls into. So, but I think what you're speaking to as far as touch points and high touch call centers, it's what we do is different from calling into the AT&T call center to pay your bill, right. Where they're getting the same call over and over. Somebody sitting in that center is going to take 300 calls that day and process 300 credit cards likely. Where with us, it's so unique to each individual client that we service. It's what we classify as a multi-tenant environment. So our software can have 10,000 different scripts and logic and flows for each of those individual clients that we work with. And so it is high touch, and it's highly customizable. And that's one of the top reasons people end up going with us that we found is the how we can customize our scripts and our software to sound like them, and then the technology that we have available for the clients to look on an online dashboard and study the data and the analytics of the calls that we're receiving, which really shows the value of what they're missing by not having it.
I really think that call center has such a branding effect that I have to agree with you that even when I was looking at some of the materials, I began to think, well, I wasn't sure until I went back and again, looked at some more of the information to realize how unique it was and how much different it was from what I was thinking, quote unquote, a call center was. As we close out our discussion, and Eric, I welcome you to come back, because I think anyone that has listened to our discussion today would realize that it's not as simple as it looks. I don't think anything is. I think Eastern philosophers always say that the solution is simple. It's the implementation that takes all of the challenge and courage. I think in this particular case, it sounds to me like the easiest thing to do is to kind of, quote unquote, pick up the phone and give you guys a call. Talk a little bit about how that happens. How do you what happens when somebody does engage you? What are the next steps?
So yeah, when somebody reaches out to us and they've clearly at that point identified there's some pain, there's a pain point in their business. They feel like something's just not right. They're missing opportunities, or they just need help fielding phone calls and chats from other avenues. They just don't have the time to do it. So they can reach out to us on our website. They will automatically be assigned one of our inside sales reps, who will really, it's more of a consultative type of interaction they'll have. It's very important for us to understand what the pain points are, what the goals are with the relationship, and how we can best provide that solution. And so it's more of a consultation where we get to understand each other better and how we can help each other. And then from there, putting that client in the right plan, which are, again, very affordable, as low as $30 a month, depending on call volume and chat volume. So it's more of a consultation. We'll do it for free. We love to talk to anybody about their business, and I'd be willing to bet that pretty much any business out there these days is not answering 100% of their calls. And according to that, over half those calls are new opportunities from what we're seeing. So it's one of those things that just pays for itself.
Well, you're saying what you're seeing, and I know enough small business owners to know they're living it. And I got to tell you that the more I find out about you guys, the more excited I am, even for my own needs, because as long as I've been in the field, and as much as we've covered so many different things as far as layers and tentacles about new technologies and innovations and how to adapt them for practicality in terms of results, bottom line, ROI, I think sometimes you miss some of the most obvious nuances. And I think undoubtedly VoiceNation, I don't often say this, but I got to tell you guys, if you're listening to this conversation, no obligation in finding out something you didn't know before that could save you money and maybe even make you money. I think it's worth checking out. So again, it's VoiceNation, but you mentioned a website. Give us a URL, Eric.
Yeah, the website it's just voicenation.com. So VoiceNation.com.
Well, Eric, I got to tell you, thanks for your time. I know how busy you guys are, but thanks for your time and sharing the insight and information you did today on Tech Talk.
Thank you so much. I'd love to come back anytime.